today, dubbed Occupy Everywhere, as they look to come out across the country in their push for a better economy and better governance. And in studio with me for this conversation, I have Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Nuruddin Kagai, Anthony Ngeru, who is the Head of Communications Research at the UDA Party, as well as economist Ruth Kinyanjui. Ladies and gentlemen, many thanks for staying on with us. Now, Nuruddin, many are referencing to Ruto's remarks during that interview on Sunday night, and the nation spoke to one of the youth, and this is what he had to say, that there has been not just corruption, but condescending treatment from the people close to the president, who are overspending, in fact, on non-essentials and things that do not benefit the economy. Now, just 2 days ago, we had the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, speak to members of parliament. He told them to stop displaying opulence and extravagance to Kenyans, many of whom have no food to eat, no money to put food on the table. Nuruddin, what do you make of that show and display of opulence from members of parliament at a time when Kenyans are fighting for the very basics?
It shows you the out-of-touch reality they have, where they believe that by doing that they look cool. Some of them, I believe, they need to be rappers. They're living as if they're rappers in the States, you know, where you're puking on the feet of those people who are hungry, and that is why people are where they are right now. You've mentioned about a young man who said that. Michelle, I have been to police stations during these demonstrations. On the first day that we had the demonstrations, we were at Central Police Station. There was a video that was going around. We went there, OCS. The reason why we went there was because so many young men had been arrested, including minors. That's why we were saying we went there, OCS. We want to know what is going on. I had time to talk with some of the men that were released. We left that around midnight. I talked to one of them. I asked him, what is going on? Told me, mimi hata leo amenishika, hata kesho kitaka kunishika nishike. Where I am in my life, I'd rather even die than be alive. You're dealing with people who have lost all hope in life. They don't see a future. They have gone to school. And then when they look at people who are supposed to be their leaders, they puke in their faces by showing words of money, by showing opulence, be it cars, be it how they move, the choppers and everything. And that is the same person that's supposed to represent you, and then comes up and votes yes for a finance bill that is meant to impoverish you more, and then tells you, oh, but then I was asleep, I just woke up, I heard my name, so I said yes. Is that a person that is actually in touch with the realities that people are suffering? So for me, I can summarize whatever is happening with a song. You know, there's a song called Coward of the Country. In this song, the father tells the son, promise me, son, not to do the things I've done. Mm-hmm. Walk away from trouble if you can. It doesn't mean you're weak if you turn the other cheek. Sometime I hope you'll understand you don't have to fight to be a man. So this father, in this context, are these so-called leaders who tell us, oh, young people, we are your father, listen to us, don't beat us, don't usitusalimie, forgive us. Now, the next part of that song is now the son telling the father, I promised you, dad, not to do the things you do. I walked away from trouble when I can. I hope you understand that sometimes you have to fight to be a man. So what does this mean? The son in this context are the youth, who are now fighting for their social, political, and economic rights, where they have realized those we elect end up not serving us, but are serving whoever they believe is more important to them. And so we find ourselves in a situation where people are asking themselves, why are the youth up in arms? Explain to someone who has gone to school, who is educated, has spent 5, 6, 7 years outside here tamaking, and then there's someone who believes that by virtue of being a member of parliament, they can live through your taxes in a very flamboyant lifestyle, and then tell you there's no money. Mm-hmm. And then tells you, oh, by the way, mkazi mshipi, maisha si mzuri, lakini hawa tawana mshipi, they are living without a belt. So the reality is that people are angry and are hungry. And the first these so-called leaders get in touch with the reality, the better for them. You now see whatever is happening to them. Now they are no longer moving in sirens. At the cabinet secretary, Hawanda Bendera, what does that tell you? Now you're running away from the same people, like the members of parliament that day when people went to parliament. Why do you run away if you have done something so good? It tells you the disconnect between the leaders and the people. And the earlier they realize that they are meant to serve and they're not the bosses, the better for them. Because at the end of the day, we cannot have a scenario where people get arrested because they are
it is the democratic right to do what they do. But look, take a look at page 7 of the Standard newspaper, and it's a report about anti-tax protesters fearing for their lives as threats continue to spread. And it is anti-tax protesters in Nakuru County who now say they've been receiving messages and calls from unknown numbers in the past few days, threatening them for taking part in the event that they do take part in this protest. But I'd like to move away from that and, Anthony, come back to the issue of debt. And you mentioned, President William Ruto mentioned that he will put in place measures to ensure that the country's debt is audited. He also dismissed the issue of odious debt. So let me go back to that example from Mozambique, where the Constitutional Court declared null and void loans worth 1.4 billion shillings. And there are those who feel that it may be time to test Kenya's judiciary when it comes to issues of corruption, that it may be time to take to the court the subject matter of situations where Kenyan taxpayer has been forced to keep servicing expensive debt that either did not benefit the citizen or did not get into the pocket of the citizen. And there's many, many examples. One is of 2014, when the government borrowed 8 billion shillings to fund the Galana Kulalu project. Now, the Israeli contractor abandoned the project in 2019 after being paid 5.9 billion out of the 8.3 billion shillings. But Kenyans will still continue servicing this loan until September 2033. This project is a white elephant project now. And there's a raft of many other projects that Kenyans will continue to pay for, because somebody came and decided, let's take a loan and do this, and then halfway through the project, abandoned the project. And so in the next administration, more of that will keep happening. And Kenyans still have to pay for this lack of, it's no longer mismanagement now, it just becomes bad governance altogether. Are these not instances of odious debt that should be audited and Kenyans lifted off that burden of servicing these loans?
In no case have the government tried to, restructure that debt to make it odious, or have they declined to honor their mandate to pay those debts. So you cannot classify them as odious debts. And just like I've said, we have that data on public domain on the money that we owe externally and internally. You've given a very good example of Galana Kulalu. Of course, the previous regime invested a lot of money in that specific project. And when the government of William Ruto came into power, one of the issues that had to be addressed was that Galana Kulalu issue. And it was revived. And as we speak, there's a projection of, when you talk about food security, there's a projection of harvesting more than 40 million metric tons of maize from the Galana Kulalu project. So I would want us to, I would choose to go the way that the president advised. If there are any questions about our debts, an audit is being done, and that report will be availed on public domain as soon as it is out. Yes. All
right, Ruth, even as we talk of the options that President William Ruto has now in this very difficult space he finds himself in, what do you think will be the impact of auditing Kenya's debt as he has promised?
As you speak about debt, I'm just looking at something that just happened recently on Eurobond. We were on Eurobond, and Eurobond was supposed to expire last week. But in towards early this year, something just turned around, and even without a word going out to the public, it was renegotiated, and that did not affect Kenyans in the length that we thought. What am I trying to say, Michelle? Is that still some few good things, or there are some good things happening in the background, but apparently they are never brought to the public limelight. And one of the things that I've struggled with in the last forever is the government lack of communications to its people. I mean, you guys, if you communicate so clearly to us during the elections and we get convicted to elect you into leadership, how then it becomes so difficult to communicate the journey that you're taking us, that you promised us? And that is the biggest problem we're experiencing right now, Michelle.
Right, and let's just give live pictures to our viewers, and I'll come back to you, of what's happening within the Nairobi Central Business District as protesters or Gen Z plan a second round of anti-government demonstrations. And so we have pictures there from downtown Nairobi, and it seems like it is business as usual for most Kenyans who've come out to go about their usual business. President William Ruto, remember, said that we will not see the presence of the Kenya Defence Forces unless the protests turn violent in the course of the day, but also promised that police will be on ground to, among others, provide security for businesses and protesters alike. And so those are the live pictures that we continue showing you there. And our team is on the ground trying to make their way into the Central Business District through Ngara, I believe. And it seems to be a clear road so far. Many Kenyans still coming out to get to their places of work. And remember, business people have come out to call on the youth to put a hold on the demonstrations now that President William Ruto seems to have softened his stance and promised to address their concerns. Many of them taking issue with the amount of looting that took place in the demonstrations last week. Many of them still counting losses up to tens of millions of shillings that they say will take them quite a long time to recover. And so that is the situation as we take you into the Nairobi Central Business District. You've seen Kenyans just walking, little presence of security officers outside the Central Business District, but we understand there is quite some heavy police presence within major installations like Parliament and KICC as well. So we'll continue giving you live pictures of that, but we'd like to hear where you're watching us from as well. Do speak to us at K24 TV as we take a look at what's happening across the country. Will you be taking part in these protests, and why are you taking part in these protests? President William Ruto has expressed his willingness to have a dialogue or conversation with the youth on an X space on Thursday. And, you know, even as we talk about that, Ruth, it remains to be seen what the logistics and dynamics of this X space will be. I don't know if you've been on X spaces, but the ones I have been on and have politicians have joined have not been very pleasant. What are your thoughts? What do you expect from that X space?
I think I can assure them that campaigns are now going to be different. It's not business as usual. The status quo has been shaken and broken. And it's a new, actually I look at it like a new dispensation, a paradigm shift even for this country. Why, you know, when we came and sometimes back really discussed as Kenya is one of the most intelligent country, I think people would wonder why we are saying Kenya is an intelligent country. But you can tell even with a little technological aspect, people are going way even to ensure that we can be able to change legislation and also that to push change in such spaces. And I think we are lucky as a country. When some years back when we saw some of the biggest hubs coming to set shop in Kenya, I think we really underestimated. But one thing I can tell you for sure, Michelle, is that our youth is educated. We have a good educated youth. And the reason why maybe even the government went ahead to negotiating even jobs outside the country for Kenyans is because one of the things that even foreign governments will always say that even our accent is good. Go to most of the countries out there, and Kenyans are hardworking people. So Kenyans just need to be let to be. And with now technology in space, people are willing to go all the way to innovate and find solutions. And if they're going to go to the Twitter spaces to find solution or to voice their things, I think this is a good thing for our country. Actually, I look at that. And actually, it is the one that is going to define the next actually phase of this country, because standing here, we can look back at the years from independence, and my brother has even tried to talk about some of the atrocities and issues that have never been dealt with in this country. But now, this is the right time to start sorting some of the issues that have not been dealt with for a long time. And however, how we decide to change that is what is going to define the economic stability of not only Kenya, but the region. Why do I say that? If you look at what happened last week, Michelle, it's like the neighboring country and the region were all like watching us and really wishing they were in our space. So we are at a better place. I look at it that way, and we can define things differently. What then does the government have to do? The government has to listen to its people, be slow in executing its plan, recommunicate its manifesto, come down to where the Mwananchi is, and start communicating and working with the ground. At this point in time, it's not about how much money Kenya can earn in terms of taxes. It's about reconciliation. It's about stability. It's about the next big future of Kenya. When I go to the Gen Zs, just for responsibility and accountability purposes, let also them be seen to not be ganging up with goons, people who are looking to destroy this country. We cannot, we've come a very long way to destroy this country, especially economically. We cannot go down to destroying this country. We have to hold what we have as a foundation of what we want to build. And I think that is very important at this point.
Right, and as we take a look at those live pictures, of course, and from downtown town, we've seen Mudhurwa, and many Kenyans have come out to go about their daily businesses. And the fact that there was looting and massive destruction of property last week, many said that sort of took away from the cause and the push for better governance. Anthony, what do you make of the fact that this is Moi Avenue within the central business district? Kenyans have come out, you know, business as usual. And remember, this is a place where many businesses were looted during the anti-tax protest last week. Many have tried to rebuild, but the situation is still a bit anxious because business persons are a bit anxious of what how the day will unfold. What are your thoughts on the fact that people have come out?
Well, if you look at those pictures, those live pictures, you would notice that, of course, business is going on as usual. But if you look at some of the highly populated areas within the CBD, they are a bit less populated. Look at Ngara. I think this is it Moi Avenue? Normally, it's more busy because I think there's still a little bit of anxiety. We don't know what will happen, but I want to believe that this is a reciprocation from the Gen Zs about the dialogue that the president has called into, and also the engagement. By the way, I don't think I've seen any other president from around the world engaging the youth via Twitter Spaces, and we usually talk about our president not listening, but I think this is a great avenue to listen to the Gen Zs. And back to what we were discussing earlier, I think communication has, like the president said, has been a huge challenge for the government. And when we talk about communication, it doesn't necessarily mean you know, the president is going to X country and you know, put the pictures out there, but I think and I feel like what the people want to listen, what people want to hear is we had a manifesto, and this is how we are implementing it. People want to hear more about the output, not more about this is what we are going to do. And we cannot run away from the fact that even by our shilling strengthening, we are saving at least 1.1 trillion in debt interest repayment. And there is this notion that has been created on public domain that there is a lot of mistrust with the government, particularly our president. But I would categorically say with evidence-backed data that the country has been on the right trajectory. We saw the president immediately when he took charge. He employed judges to our courts. We have seen over time the inflation reducing up to 4.6%, which is way below our medium-term plan 4 target of 5%, which means the prices of local commodities have reduced, from transport to electricity to unga, which was at 250 shillings when the government was coming to power. Right now it's retailing at 90 shillings. We have seen the president honoring his pledge on reduction of fertilizer prices from 7,000 to 2,500 shillings, which has contributed to what we are seeing in the market currently with the unga prices going down. We have seen the president honoring his decision to remove subsidies on fuel and unga, and whatever we are fueling our vehicles with, that is unsubsidized fuel. And over the past 6 months or so, we've seen fuel reducing by an average of around 30 shillings. We have seen the stress
so why do you think with all this that the youth are still disgruntled?
I'm actually coming to that, and ideally, like we've just said, I think communication is at the center of it all, because I feel like the youth want to see the output. They want to see how these policies are being executed. What is it in there for us? And like I mentioned earlier, when we talk about employment, we have seen the strides, the 4 bilateral agreements that we have come into with different countries in terms of labor export, which in return will help us boost our diaspora remittances. We have seen the Hustler Fund, more than 7 million beneficiaries. When you talk about the MSMEs, which is the backbone of our economy,
so
supporting
why are
40%
the
of
youth still on the street? And we must take a break very briefly.
Well, that's what I'm trying to elucidate, because the youth are in the streets because they want to see the output. It is not well communicated. The output has been given,
but they have not been told.
Well, okay, they have been told, but probably not everything has been well articulated as it should be. Because even when we're talking about employment, which has been a huge challenge to us, the government has already created more than 169,000 employment opportunities.
Okay, we'll be fact-checking that. Let's take a break, and then we'll be coming back to then who failed the president, because he says that his communication team failed him with regard to the finance bill. We'll take a break here at K24 TV. We'll be giving you a look at what else is happening across the country when we come back as youth stage another round of anti-government protests. Also be taking a look at your feedback after this break. Do stay with us.